Hey y'all, so I'm gonna be disclaimer. I just got some dental work done after over 10 years of not eating on one side because I couldn't afford health and dental insurance or health insurance for that matter. You know, issues of growing up in poverty and whatever, but that's not what this is about. So I'm gonna sound kind of funny because the whole left side of my mouth is numb. But I wanted to get this off my chest because I've just been reflecting since yesterday and all morning. I just feel like I'm finally seeing the light. I'm coming out of something that I was really deep into, and I want to reflect on my spiritual journey. My spiritual journey has been very, very intense. I have gone through everything you could think of. I've tried everything you could think of, and you know what I realized? What I learned? That it's a bunch of BS. Like, none of it really worked. And it's because this new age spirituality, which the content is not new. This stuff is going on for centuries. But a lot of the things that are being marketed as spirituality is really just deflecting almost. It's like we've been using spirituality to cope with reality. And if you're not grounded, you will literally think that everything that these spiritual teachers are teaching and preaching is fact, and it's really not. And what it is as we're going through these mental and psychological issues, and basic things that we go through in life when we're extremely stressed and almost at a point of mental breaks. We seek things, this really intense lack of self-worth, lack of self-love, lack of self-confidence, the stressors of financial instability, the normal everyday stressors, the stressors of being an adult. Adulting is hard, and people are afraid to admit that they don't know all the answers. They're afraid to ask for help. They're afraid to ask questions and say, I know I'm 30-something years old, but I don't know this. I know I'm 30-something years old, but this is going to sound weird. Am I brushing my teeth right? Am I cleaning myself right? Am I using proper hygiene? Should I throw away those towels that I've had for 10 years? Should I, basic everyday things? And I don't really know how. I need help parenting. I don't know everything. Because you know what? No one knows everything, but it takes a village. We have to be together and help each other out. We need support. We need community. We need that interconnectivity. And a lot of the stuff that's spirituality is just a person's interpretation and creative perspective on something that's really basic and mundane and worldly, but they've made it deeper. They put a lot of coding on it. They put a lot of extraness on it. It's hard to explain, but let's just say for an example, the chakras. Yes, you got the root, you got the sacral, you got the solar, but ultimately it's basically like the emotions that are attached to it. It's basically, okay, think about, your history, root. Okay, think about your security and your financial stability. It's just a way to encompass it and label it and group it. But a lot of it is confusing for people, and it makes them think that it's something that it's not. And for people who are going through actual mental crises, they are not seeing this as just spirituality. They're seeing it from a very dangerous perspective because they're seeing it in this intensive way, and that's why you get that God complex where you think you're God, you can fly, you can this, you can that, because there's no more rationality now. Now you're living literally in your head, and majority of the stuff that people are saying is energetic healing or spiritual healing is still mental work. So when you're going through a mental crisis and you're still doing stuff like even meditation, even the stuff that heal the energy of the chakras, heal this and that, it's still basically reflection and reframing. And then and then you have the psychology attached to spirituality now. So that is also a form of manipulation too of the psyche. It's basically telling you how to feel. I kept rationalizing. I'm like, well, these people are saying I should be upset with my parents. I should be angry right now with them. I should feel this way. I should feel that way. I felt pulled in so many directions, and it was like, I was like, man, but I'm not mad at my parents. I truly do understand what they went through. They had less tools than we did. They had less resources than we did. They did the best they could with what they had. And it's like, I just got tired. I got to the point where I was like, I'm at the end of this right now, guys, and I'm really just happy to be normal. Like, I just want normalcy. I want simplicity. I want to just go to the grocery store, to just wash my car, to just go shopping, to just talk to people on the street. Just regular, everyday stuff. This journey has made me appreciate mundane. It has really made me appreciate the simple things in life. I don't want nothing special. I don't want anything grandiose. I don't want anything supernatural. Whatever these things have been, these people have been promising. Oh, leave all your family and friends behind. They're this, they're that. You're special. You're called to do this. You're this and that. Everybody is called. Everybody is special. And it's not about leaving your family. Family is foundation. And I'm going to be making a post specifically about that. But, dude, get out. Stop following these spiritual teachers because they're going through their own mental crisis and they need help as well. You don't need to follow someone to understand, what you're going through. You need to talk to somebody. You need some counseling, and not someone who's going to force you to feel a certain way. Just someone who is like there to talk to. You need to express what you're going through. You're probably going through what I went through. I was going through a maternal burnout. I was just contemplating what my life was going to be. What am I going to do with myself? Questioning different things. I was having midlife crises. I was, going through basic everyday things that everybody goes through. And I was making it more than what it was and seeking answers from people who were not leading me to the right answers. They were leading me to follow them or to follow a movement of spiritual identities, like an identity that was not feeding me, that was not fulfilling to me. It was hurting me. It was stripping me and pulling me away from my family and my friends, the people who I love the most. And that to me is dangerous. If you're feeling like this, if you are feeling like nothing is going right in your life and it's not a void, it's not a this, it's not all this stuff that they're labeling it, get out. Go find some grounded, rational advice and get out of this following that this spirituality is leading a lot of people to. That's all I have to say for right now. This is my first part 1 of my spiritual journey reflection. Hey guys, I'm back with part 2 of my spiritual journey reflection. I've just been kind of going over it and adding stuff as the days have gone since I've dropped the first part 1. So first off, let me say this. A spiritual journey for me isn't something grandiose. It is the ability to see things from a bigger picture and just learning how to live life and grow and learn. I have many aspects in my journey of life. I'm on a journey of bettering my emotional expression in all of my relationships, like with my family, my sisters or friends, with my son, and in my marriage. Growing my hair, my natural hair, mental, medical, dental wellness, stress and anger management, career, financial stability, fitness, body goals, becoming more disciplined and balancing of my work and personal life overall, and getting more connected to God and strengthening my faith and self-worth, love, acceptance, confidence, etc. All the selves that are good, at least. So, going through this journey, I realized that you cannot go through any spiritual journey seeking salvation and answers from outside sources, especially humans or people. You have to have some sort of foundational belief to stabilize yourself or ground in. And disclaimer, this is my filter, my perspective as a person who has a Christian background, who is more spiritual than religious. However, that is a big foundation of my belief system, and who is African American, a woman, in a committed relationship with a man, so a heterosexual relationship. I have a son, and so these are kind of like my filters. So keep those in mind, but I try to stay as objective as I can. But yeah, so you need to have some kind of foundational belief system to stabilize yourself or ground in, to come back and recenter. Having a belief system is vital because beliefs establish your reality. They create your reality. It's how you see the world, and you have to have some sort of system of sustainability. Believe in something higher than yourself to fall back on when you lose yourself or lose your way, because that happens from time to time. You have to weather the storm to see the rainbow or reward. What doesn't kill you will only make you stronger. You are being led to believe that we humans are so stupid in evolution, and we need so much fixing and analyzing. What is wrong with coping and surviving, honestly? What I've learned is the only thing that you will really ever get in this world is the option to choose. Choose love and acceptance of yourself and life itself. Trying to change, heal, and fix everything about yourself that you have internalized as wrong is detrimental to the spirit, psyche, your mental health, and emotional health. It's toxic to think just because I cope in a certain way, like a certain type of guy or girl, have a certain type of sex life, talk a certain way, live my life in a certain way, that in some type of way makes me a bad or person or wrong. That's why I was saying spirituality was becoming just another classist box that people who felt godly or elite could mold and shape to make people continue to suffer in the insecurities of self that they were trying to find peace and escape from in the beginnings of their journey. In the first place, everyone's reality and journey is not for you. You have to learn how to filter what speaks to you from a place of personal power, not judgment or shame or guilt, or solely for a sense of relatability and acceptance. A lot of times, especially I feel like as Black people, we have internalized so much low or vacant esteem, as Joy DeGruy talks about in post-traumatic slave syndrome, that we do a lot of things for this relatability, and sometimes we compromise our own what's calling to our own soul, to be accepted or to be relatable. But a lot of times those things are what sustains us and what keeps us happy. So you have to find that thin line and know when to cross it and when to stay in your space. Comfort, there's nothing wrong with comfort either. You have to find peace within yourself first, or you'll end up following the wrong path and cause so much more heartache, being pulled in so many different ways. There are many paths, but it's all the same destination. Home, I always say, is where the heart is. That's the heaven on earth that people talk about. Seek that and everything else will follow in life. I was going down a dark road of beliefs that were filled with unhealed, faithless, pessimistic, and paranoid belief systems. And that is no way for anyone to live. We're not freaking designed to be overthinking and analyzing every little thing about ourselves. It's counterproductive to the goal of peace of mind. Yes, everything may be energy, but knowing that doesn't mean stress and worry about it all the time. The goal of stress and awareness is not to stop life from happening, but to regulate and find peace and beauty in the saying, that's just life. Like I said before, if I ain't died yet with the lifestyle of ignorance and all these new scientific discoveries in spirituality, nutrition, health, etc., then I'm not going to die after knowing, unless I stress myself to death, which is really the silent killer. That's why I always say faith is very necessary. We have not been forsaken, even if we feel that way. We are always being guided. I don't understand all the answers as to by whom exactly, but I found peace and realized I don't need to know that. That's what faith is all about, embracing the unknown and establishing peace with not knowing. I felt like I was being sucked into not only a virtual reality when I was, doing a lot of work through social media, but also a reality full of darkness, energetic manipulation, and mind control. Really sit with yourself and ask yourself why you're seeking salvation from specific people, and analyze those motives I listed above earlier. Instead, pray or set intentions to build trust for yourself, or for me, God. For me as a teacher and as what some people call light workers, or lifestyle coach, I have a different purpose, and I may have to face some extra challenges to gain more insight and knowledge to teach. So my journey may tend to feel more intense because I'm being like a guinea pig, so to speak, trialing and erroring everything to bring back to y'all and lay out the options so you can make choices of your own from your own personal power, your own choice. But I'm giving you what has worked for me, and I feel like we all kind of made from the same cloth that a lot of times what works for me is going to work for a lot of people and a lot of the people who gravitate to me. You know, after going to a party last night, well, okay, so it wasn't last night, it was a couple nights ago because I wrote this a couple nights ago. But after going to a party a couple nights ago for my cousin's birthday party and to my other cousin's party, one was at a karaoke bar in the private room with us, just ladies' night, and the other one was another ladies' night, and we were at just, like a daiquiri bar and grill. And, being able to twerk, drink, smoke some hookah, and still having the will or uplift their spirit to wake up the next day and still be able to have some sort of spiritual enlightenment is proof that there's no way to gain enlightenment. There's no way that you have to be to maintain a spiritual connection with God or whoever you want to connect to. Your path is your path. Some people may profess sobriety. Some people may profess that they may have their wine, or they may smoke their weed, or they may do shrooms, or whatever they may do to find enlightenment. Some people meditate, some people do yoga, but everything does not work for everybody. And just because the spiritual community says this is the best way to do it does not mean that it is best for you. So I say all this to say, really, really, really give yourself grace. Let that word ring in you. Don't just let the word roll off you and go on one and out the other. When you're not feeling together, give yourself grace and self-compassion and allow yourself to just be who you are and fall in love with that person and heal the things that you feel you really need to heal for you. Not because anyone is telling you, not because you have some sort of guilt, shame, or self-judgment attached to it. Because if so, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and you're doing it. And when you're doing things for the wrong reasons, you will never find the answers you're truly in need of. The moral of the story is you literally got to be your own boss and know when to seek help and when to say, okay, I will. And when to say, okay, I want to adapt this into my belief system. Okay, I don't really agree with that person, or that's a bunch of BS. You have to know when something is truly going to work for you and know when you want to change something because it wasn't for you and it doesn't work for your lifestyle, and that's okay. And it doesn't make you lesser or a worse person or less spiritual or yada, 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 or more spiritual. There is no spiritual hierarchy. Whatever else we say to ourselves that makes us feel low, when it plays out into narratives in our head, we have to release that negative self-talk. We have to release that inner critic of judgment that we put onto ourselves. We have to release the need to feel like we're unworthy, that we need to be fixed, and that we're broken, because that is not going to help us. But it's okay if you fall off the wagon. We're starting from ground zero, a lot of us, including myself. There's a lot of things as an adult that on this journey I did not know. Adulting is a journey. Becoming a parent is a journey. And a lot of this crap we were not told as kids, and not something to hold resentment to your parents for, but because they didn't even know. We're the generation that is breaking a lot of the curses of the the ignorances that we had in evolving and growing and changing and healing ourselves. We're all God's children. We are human. And just like children, sometimes we got to bump our heads a few times before we get it or see the bigger picture. No shame or guilt needed. You're doing exactly what God wants you to do, learning through experience. Don't feel bad. I went through so many mental breaking points, but there was always a light at the end of the tunnel because I went back to my safe space and grounded in God and my sustainability. So just 2 little tips. It's kind of encompassing what I just said, but for anyone on any type of life journey, focus on the old school fundamentals. And your fundamentals may be different from mine. I will make a specific video on some of my specific old school remedies and different little things, but it's kind of going to be specific based on if it's about medical, mental, physical, spiritual, whatever, depending on the aspects of life. But focus on the old school fundamentals, not all the flair and creative perspective that makes the word or the information a bit cloudy or unclear, getting lost in the sauce, i.e., the fundamentals that I feel are tried and true are self-love, self-acceptance, self-confidence, self-appreciation, self-compassion, self-worth, and self-forgiveness. It's a foundational perspective. And also, to know what really works for you, think back to a time when it was working for you. I know that may sound too simple, easy, or obvious, but sometimes we lose sight of things because they seem too easy or too good to be true. We lose our way because we have tried and experimented so much that we've forgotten that what we had wasn't too bad and it was working. And in the ego hunt for bigger and better, we abandon the fundamentals that have sustained us for so long, or falling privy to the consumerist trap, overbuying the next new thing or the next thing that this person said or that person said, overcompensating and not knowing what method really works because everyone has their opinions on what has worked for them, getting overwhelmed with so many options. When you get to that point, you have to lean into the tried and true old traditions, remedies, wives' tales, and most importantly, prayer and faith. Like when I was at karaoke, my cousin was like, "What did you order?" I said, "Amaretto sour." Come on, And she was like, "Of course." And she was like, "Well, what did you get to eat?" And I was like, "Wings." And she's like, "OMG, like try something different." I was like, "Dang, can I have my old soul?" But I love that I have things that I'm known for, like my comforts that comforts me. These things that everyone knows about me. Why do you think people gravitate to those with old souls so much? Because that grandmother and grandfather spirit is so comforting. I realize a lot of people don't have that praying grandmother around them to constantly give them that old school wisdom. And I know that's something that I have deeply embedded in me. I had a very strong grandmother figure on both ends of my family. And that energy is still with me, even though one has transitioned. She is still with me. And the things that she knows, I know is still permeating through my blood and my pores. But it's so comforting and feels safe to lay our burdens down with. Yes, trust me. Trust may be earned, but faith is all we got, really. You will never know a person's true intentions. You may think, "Oh, I don't know if this doctor is telling me right or wrong." But knowing that God always has my back no matter what and is always walking with me on my journey truly sustains me. We are all chosen and are capable of God's love. We just got to call on him or her. And when we need him, let him into our heart. The solution is we got to get back to tradition, the ones that have worked, and lean into those with so much appreciation and gratitude. We got to give thanks to those who taught us right from wrong, how to be decent people, how to have manners and patience, how to continue to love through heartache. This old soul or spirit is what keeps us grounded in love and wisdom. It's what has been subconsciously grounding us for centuries. We can't let it die in this time of unknowns and spiritual manipulation, which is the manipulation of self, the very existence of humans on earth and their free will to live and learn. A lot of it is re-traumatization and is only fueling the spiritual capitalism wave. So I know I'm speaking quick because I know a lot of y'all look at these videos like, I ain't finna watch this video. That thing, an hour, 30 minutes. So I try to say as much as I can and get as much information. But like I said, I am going to be posting a lot of these future videos future episodes and blogs as well. So you can always check out my website and kind of print it out or look at it so you can have reference to go back on if you don't want to re-listen to the episode again. But that's all I have for now, guys. I love you guys. Peace out. Hey, I just want to add a couple more things to my spiritual journey reflection. I did a part 1 and part 2, along with adding a couple other segments, but I wanted to say a couple quick things that I, came to as far as the tips for anyone on a journey through life, as it progressively teetering between evolving and de-evolving. But so anyone who's going on a journey, everyone's going on a journey, basically. But so this is just tips for anyone in life in general, and maybe to kind of help you cope through the things that you go through. So the first one is embrace change as the only constant. Yes, change is the only constant. The more you embrace the fact that everything is always changing, the less rigid you become and the more open you are, and the less things bother you as much, because you become more accepting of that's just life, or, that's part of the challenges, and that I can get through it, and that everything is temporary and my feelings are temporary, and I'm allowed to feel them and just let them pass by and let them be released and not hold on to it and not be so grudgeful or just holding all of that energy in my heart, in my system, in my body, and creating all kinds of other stressors or medical or mental factors and ailments within my system. The next one is, I kind of mentioned this in I think 1 or 2. Have faith and lean into whatever gives your spirit empowerment. And when I talk about spirit, I mean the energy that goes through your body that gets your body moving, and that's basically, it's governed by your feelings, by your emotions. All of those emotions and energies and feelings, they get you moving. And so you want something that is constantly giving you the light, the positivity, the fueling of uplifting, of empowerment, because if not, you're going to be depressed, you're going to be anxious, you're going to be paranoid, you're going to be stuck. And I'm trying to get you from being stuck and to keep moving and being progressive on your journey. Being dependent on human leadership means risking being led to suffering or them failing to the temptations, poor intentions, and greed of a totalitarian mindset. This need to be dominant. Like me, like I said, I always ground in my intentions and like let God lead me, and I'm just following. And I try to speak things from the heart and try to speak things from a very objective space. But I do have filters, and I do have my own personal pains coming from what is known as like intersectionalities, and like my being marginalized as a Black woman or as a mother. I carry those filters with me. So I do always mention that, because I feel like to be an influencer, you should tell your, listeners your perspective, and they should understand what your perspective is. But so it's not that you can't follow a human or people and like, get tips and advice from them, but it's just always centering in, does this make me feel good, or what's happening? You know what I'm saying? Just keeping that in mind. But I just feel like for our society, for our culture, everyone having some type of opinion, that's what sustains our civilization. And to be forced out of it by fear-mongering, dominance culture, gurus is a testament to the history of slavery and many other mental genocides. So it's just be mindful of manipulation and fear and all these kind of things that, could pressure you to be dependent on somebody to lead you when you can lead yourself. And I always lean my faith into God. So that's me, and that's what sustains me. Also, self-admittance and self-accountability. I just kind of posted something about that in my pandemic positives, and they are a must. We all have to face the fact that, we are human, and we do have things that we have done that we may not be proud of, but that's part of the process. And it's not about feeling guilty, shame, or self-judgment. It's about just taking that accountability, taking responsibility for your actions, making amends when you can, and whether the person accepts your apologies or not, or whatever amends, whether it's received well or not. You did it, so you released it, and you did what all you could do. And as long as you made a choice that makes you feel at peace, then that's all that matters. Face the fact that you are scared, anxious, worried, and prevent a mental breakdown. I had to get real with myself and just say, yes, I do have fear. Yes, I do have anxiety. Yes, I do have paranoia and all these other kinds of feelings. And those are justifiable. And I'm choosing to not allow them to rule my life. I'm choosing to stay in the driver's seat and put those emotions and thoughts and feelings to the back seat, allowing them to play on that radio, but turning that station when I'm done, when I'm tired of it, when I feel like, okay, I've been in this energy in too long enough. I've listened to this song long enough. Let me turn it. It's time to get out of the paranoia, the depression. It's time to be in joy and bliss and ecstasy. You have that, but have this self-admittance and self-accountability. Don't let psychoanalysis kill your spirit. Everything about you doesn't need to be explained or understood. Acceptance is a two-way street. A lot of times we have people, trying to like be subliminal about our culture. And when you try to be for everybody, you're going to hurt somebody. And so a lot of psychologists or spiritual teachers, they're preaching to everybody. But really for us as Black people, we can internalize a lot of what they're saying, and that can kill our spirit because it's bringing us down, and it's kind of being kind of focused, and it's like almost slugs, almost, a lot of stuff that I've been hearing. And it's like, for one, there was something going around a lot about stop complaining. And I'm like, for a while I was judging every Black person that I saw that was just complaining. And I'm like, man, just today I'm like really realizing like complaining is just another form of venting. And we don't have a lot of security inventing to people and going to this person or going to that person. So when we get around our people, that's what we do. We vent and we talk about the stresses of life and being black in America, and that is how we maintain a certain level of balance. But the balance also comes with complaining. Is just that it's not about not doing it. It's about vent and let it out. But now what do we do next? Now what are the solutions to this? Are we just going to keep complaining and venting about it? Or are we going to actually find solutions that actually are going to get us out of that space of complaining? And so that's what I'm saying. But don't let people make you sink even deeper. It becomes counterproductive when the therapy is only making you feel worse. And so that's what you have to gauge and see where your spirit is at, and is that working for you. Focus on old school fundamentals, not all the flair and creative perspectives that makes the word a bit cloudy or unclear. For example, self-love, acceptance, confidence, appreciation, worth, forgiveness. Those are foundational perspectives. And so I'm going to mention a lot of that stuff repetitively until I feel like it's in there. But that's all. I just want to put a quick little addition to my spiritual journey, life journey reflection. Putting my faith in spirituality versus God is basically relying on a person's mind and their personal downloads. I'm trusting their intuition. I'm trusting their mind. I'm trusting whatever they feel like are downloads or divine consciousness. I'm trusting their self-trust by their definition, because when you look at it, it's kind of like, say, let's look at PMS or PMDD, which is kind of like a extreme case of, mood swings, orders, physiological symptoms and stuff like that based on a menstrual cycle. But then I can just be like, and I feel like the spiritual meaning of it is the womb chakra and the sacral chakra, and the imbalance in that, and the traumas that you're storing, and those are coming to surface because at this point they're weakened, and based on the moon cycle, everything is heightened, which is the moon is in relation to the emotions. And so, and you see, basically, yes, that sounds valid, and it probably is. These are my own interpretations, like based on the energy, based on what I know about what the sacral chakra is, what the moon meaning is, what the womb chakra is, these like symbolic meanings of what it is. And that's like the kind of deeper meanings behind it. It's like it's more creative, it's more deeper, but a lot of times what we make deeper may not necessarily have validity, or may not necessarily be a healed interpretation. And so that's where a lot of the confusion can come into play, because a lot of people's interpretations and what they're teaching with is not coming from a place of the heart space. It's not coming from a place of love, or from a place of God, where I feel like God resides within us in the heart space. And if you're not doing something from a place of love and integrity and for the well-being of people in general and whole, not just one gender, not just one age, not just one race, but for the whole idea of unity consciousness and the ultimate growth of a person in general, then to me it's like it's not a well-rounded, objective perspective. Even if you feel like it's divine consciousness, or from your higher self, or from this, or yada yada yada, you have to know also that your higher self, your divine consciousness may have biases, and you have to know how to filter through those as well. You have to know that all your ancestral information may not be evolved, or may not be objective. And so when using discernment, you have to know that everybody's like need to want to be a leader and guide people to salvation or whatever. They have to know that, and always use this level of being thorough and being upfront about the fact that what their filters are, what their biases could be, and knowing that these are all their personal perspectives, their own higher perspectives for them. Because sometimes what you come to learn and realize as your new level of consciousness is not for everybody. But it doesn't mean that you can't share it. It's just that you got to know that as a follower, this is for you guys as viewers. You have to know that and set the intentions to use your heart to filter through what could possibly be for you and what is not for you. But that's why it's like it can get fickle, because sometimes whatever you absorb in your subconscious, it's going to be in there anyway. But you'll eventually get through it, like I say, as long as you have a foundation and stability of faith. And for me, that's God, and that's what I ground in when I feel like I'm getting lost in the sauce, or I'm getting pulled into something that is not for me, or my spirit, or my soul. Ladies, leave that nonchalant nigga alone. You know, the one that tries to keep you hanging on their coattails to stroke their ego, and they just give you playing hard to get, and, you know, acting like you're lucky to have them, and you know, just being dry, or like, why you sweating me? And they want to act like they ain't sweating you. Nonchalant energy is another form of a defense mechanism. Don't fall for it. Their self-worth and self-love is just as probably low as yours. To heal, especially for the black community, healing energies and spirits, like, my spiritual perspective is that, yes, I do believe, like, personality traits like narcissism, nonchalant behavior, that kind of stuff is like a spirit or energy, or like, you know, having mental illnesses are like energetic imbalances. But I try to give practical solutions instead of, you know, just like the solutions that are more like spiritual based, in a sense, like, you know, energy healing and that kind of sense. I try to do energy healing in more of a practical way, because I feel like we are in a physical world and people want physical, tangible, or actionable solutions, versus like, oh, just close your eyes and do this prayer. I mean, you know, do this meditation, or put your hands on your heart, and not taking away from anybody who does that, because maybe for them it works, because belief is everything. That's the real power. But I'm trying to come from a perspective of, I know how us as black people we are, and what we need. We need meaning. We need tangible, you know, meaningful solutions coming from a place of compassion and empathy. So I am going to be breaking down a lot of these, I feel like, personality traits that we develop living in this society who's always making us feel like we're never enough, and just going through some intense low self-worth and vacant esteem and low self-love, even vacant self-love. And so a lot of these personality traits develop, and they come and mess up the whole foundation of our family system and structures. And my life coaching is geared towards a family and marriage, and, you know, committed couple, divine partnership type aspect. The people who have children, who have long-term relationships, who, you know, who really want to choose their family over the single life or whatever. Not saying that anything's wrong with that, but like I said, my focus and concentration is on family, marriage, and those type of interpersonal relationships. But yeah, that's kind of a little prelude to something else I want to start getting into. Hey guys, today I want to talk about something that I feel like is very, very important, especially with a lot of people going through, you know, what spiritual community is calling spiritual awakening, but you could call it anything from life to midlife crisis to maternal or burnout, or just traumatization from the pandemic, or what else would I call it? Extreme stress, psychological crisis, emotional breakdowns. It can be a plethora of things. But for the sake of people who are like probably understanding and resonating with spiritual awakening right now, I just want you to know that as the dense energies in your body start to awaken, and dense energies is basically anything from your thoughts, your mind, your emotions, traumas within your body. As they start to awaken, they're interpreted through thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, those things. And so a lot of times, because of the New Age spirituality, you know, everyone putting their spin and their belief systems into the mix, you know, including myself, some things for people who have no, like, defined belief system can be pulled in many directions that actually create roadblocks and not solutions for what they're actually going through. So basically, I hear a lot of people saying like, spirit told me this, spirit told me that, and to the average person it may sound like they're going crazy, and they probably will if they don't have the right support. But I want you to know that if this is you, don't feel shame, don't feel guilt, don't feel embarrassment, because I actually went through the same thing. And I didn't have anyone who was truly giving me resources or helping me out of those solutions. And I had no one to talk to who actually could really understand what I was going through without just saying I'm crazy or, I'm losing it. So I wanted to, for first off, start off by saying it is okay. You're going to be okay. But that's what this episode is about, grounding. And I'm sorry if you guys are hearing cars in the background. I'm on my patio eating because my son is watching TV and I didn't want that in the background. So I'm just out here chilling, listening to some calm music right now. I was doing some R&B, but I'm like, I can't play music, so I'm gonna just listen to the instrumentals and all that. But yeah, basically, the fact that you label everything as spirit can be a little detrimental because it automatically makes you feel like there's some validity to everything that you're saying. And there is, but you have to know how to use discernment, and you have to know how to filter through your heart, and you have to know how to, and discernment is basically using your best judgment. Like, so say you feel like, I'm gonna focus on relationships because I feel like that's the main one. So say you all of a sudden feel like something's waking up, and basically that's that divine feminine energy. That's the trauma, the womb, the sacral chakra for the spiritual community, people who resonate with those words. But basically it's just traumas that you have carried with you that may be awakening within your body, within your system, within your memory, your soul imprints, or whatever you want to say. But it's just things that you've gone through in your life and that you may have been conditioned with, or, seen modeled within your childhood, things you see within society, within the media. And you can harbor those traumas as your own as well, because the subconscious doesn't know. The subconscious mind does not know what's real and what's fake. So you can watch a movie about relationships, and that's how you learn about relationships, and you're going to perceive that as fact instead of a suggestion. And so in shifting your belief system, you have to know that you always have a choice to throw stuff out or keep stuff. But basically, say and you feel like, oh, my man is no good, he cheating, he this and that, or spirit told me this and spirit told me that. You have to be careful with that, because what if spirit's telling you your family is all horrible and you need to leave them and run away, and your family is the one thing that sustains you and keeps you grounded, and you think because your mind has told you this that it's valid. No, what these thoughts are telling you is that you can look into what they're telling you. That's why I always say detach from the mind. You are not your thoughts. You pick and choose what you want to incorporate into your life and your belief system. Every thought that surfaces in your mind is not true. Is not truth or divine consciousness. I even agree that sometimes believe that, God gives me signs or messages, and I kind of interpret like my belief system into certain experiences throughout my life. But, a lot of people are coming from one belief system into another. And so that's going to be, first of all, heartbreaking. You have to decide if you want to continue with this belief system or just lean into reframing the one that you've already established and found peace and stability in, for one. For two, a lot of people are saying, oh, the downloads and this is all divine consciousness, this is higher perspective. Everything is in a higher perspective. You have to understand that dense energies, as well as the good ideas that are more from a higher perspective, are all surfacing. So that's why I say you have to know how to filter through your heart and know, is this something I really want? And at the end of the day, you have to keep grounding in this question: is what am I choosing? What do I want? really, from my heart. If you want your relationship, if you want your family, you have to fight through those dense energies and release and heal them. You have to see what they're trying to tell you. Is it something you need to work out? Is there something you need to express from a place of love and light, not from a place of attitude and resentment and all this other kind of stuff? Just keep grounding in love. Keep grounding in the energy of your creator, which for me is God. But I'm inclusive. You know what I mean? So just ground in that energy constantly. Set intentions that you're trying to ground your energy and filter through your heart space, which is your true desires. And understand that you are healing a lot of things, so they may be all coming to you at once. And when you feel overwhelmed, I suggest some things that helped me ground was journaling, going for walks in the park, talking to someone about it. But what you have to realize is you don't want to over contemplate, because that's the whole point. You have like basically three main bodies and within your body system. You have your physical body, you have your emotional body, which is kind of people call the spirit, which is governed by the emotions and the feelings. And then you have your mental body. And basically, as you're like they how can I explain this, as you're kind of awakening to a lot of things, and things are surfacing within you, you may go, you may elevate mentally. Like, so basically you kind of stuck in your head. Basically, how people say they stuck in their head, and girl, I stay in my head. That's kind of like where it's like you are creating a reality based around nothing but your thoughts, and you stop looking at your reality. And so to me, that's why I say grounding is good, because sometimes when you're not grounded, you're not in a reality state. You're basically in a reality that has been created solely by your thoughts, and your thoughts can be filled with paranoias, anxieties, fears, traumas. So that's why I say grounding is essential, because you need to know, is this coming from a place of a past trauma? It can even be coming from an ancestral trait, something that you're carrying that is not even from you. It's called emotional baggage and ancestral traits. And as that ancestral DNA is waking up, and all these wounds and spiritual community may call them soul imprints or whatever are awakening, and no one is telling you that it's not just spirit. Everything is, well, you can call it spirit, but like I say, for people who don't understand the deeper meaning behind it, you're going to think that, oh, that means everything that's coming up is divine. No, everything that's coming up is not divine. Some of it is dense thoughts that are coming from things that are no longer serving you, and you have to decide, is this thought serving me and what I want in life or not? And that's something you have to ground in. And so I can kind of go into something that I wrote about grounding. Grounding is essential in any journey. There's no one way to ground. The most well known is called earthing, where you walk barefoot in nature on natural earth minerals like sand, grass, or dirt. This is said to provide physical and metaphysical properties to your body, because earth is considered the home for us as humans, the place God decided to create and put us to live and learn. I always say home is where the heart is, so that's why always filtering through your heart is like symbolic of going back home. Everything is full circle. So what better place to come to feed the soul than home? The place where the heart is, where God lives for me. This healing energy is meant to give you a space of peace, tranquility, and calm in tough transitions in life, which is always happening. This is why I try to get a walk in every day at the park across the street from my home. It is so soothing to just see all the trees, clouds, and feel air blowing onto me, instead of being cooped up in the dark house doing nothing, all day bored and consumed with work or the other daily stresses of everyday life. Or just being consumed by my thoughts and overwhelmed by everything that's coming up within my head. I do my reflecting there, I run there, my son and I play there, my friends meet there and talk, have picnics and chill there. My husband go there. My husband and I, we go there. We let our son play while we talk and connect, and let our son play. It's basically a connection on many levels. It is said that the energy spirit It is said within the spiritual community that the energy, spirit, and vibration of nature is a healing vibration, and the green is symbolic to the heart chakra and ultimately all connected, seeing as though the heart chakra is said to be the healing epicenter of our whole system. And that is something that I truly believe. And I want to go into that with ways I grounded as a child and currently as an adult. But I want to make my own personal disclaimer. As a spiritual activist, I'm all about the spirit, and I feel like, and when I talk about the spirit, I'm talking about how you feel, the things that actually bring you joy, happiness, peace, ecstasy, all of those things. That is truly what drives you and what, keeps you grounded and kind of helps you forget and move out of the head space more down into the body space, which is more of your reality and more of that heaven on earth that a lot of people are seeking. So some of the things that I did, like I said, journaling is one of them. Going for walks. I grounded personally in my family's love and their prayers and my prayers, and with gospel music and old school music, but whatever music you listen to, and laughter, with food, eating, especially like they say root vegetables, but to me eating and meat, but like eating heartier dishes that kind of weigh your body down. If you think about it, is bringing your spirit down because it's so heavy. So sometimes you need that weighing down to kind of get out of that headspace. With rest, sleep, because as you're getting these new divine consciousness or downloads or these epiphanies or these great ideas and your belief systems may be changing, you're going to need rest. Rest is alchemy, and alchemy is just another way of saying a way to, how can I say, shift, transform, and actually absorb the information that you're doing. It kind of helps your body take in all of this information because it's a lot, and that's why you're going around kind of spacey and just like, oh, spirit told me this, all this kind of like delusional seeming behavior, because you're not grounding in that sleep or rest. You're not getting enough of it. Also, another big one, I always say the best way to get out of your head is to prove a lot of the thoughts wrong, and the best way you do that is something that a lot of us are failing to do in this new technological society, and whatever. It's basically communicate your feelings, thoughts, and issues with family and friends, loved ones, your partner. Especially I'm putting emphasis on partner and relationship, because that's a lot of the issues going on right now. A lot of women are awakening, and a lot of men who are their partners and significant others don't understand. But women, don't feel shame. Don't let no one around you make you feel like you're crazy or something. But lean into that love, because men, this is your chance to step up and prove that you care about your woman and you want to fight for your family and your woman. So also do that. Help her see rationality without a place of just making her feel bad or shame or guilt. Actually talk about the things that she's saying and ask her why she's feeling that certain way, and just those are going to be your way of like I said, do things that uplift your spirit. Take Epsom salt baths. Talk to someone who can help you rationalize through what you're going through, without any judgment, shame, or guilt. Do things that are everyday things, but doing with the intentions to ground and calm your mind, so that, and uplift your spirits, like your heart desires, things that actually give you joy, happiness, and peace. Go get your nails done. Go get your hair done. Get a haircut. Go play basketball with some friends. Go to the park with a friend and just chill and talk and chat. These things are going to help you get more of the interconnectivity, going to help you, how can I say, just center more into that heart space, things that make your heart sing, just feel good. And in that's the true healing. There are a lot of healing modalities, but ultimately I feel like one of the main ones is just doing things that make you feel good and make you happy. And so, doing some of these simple everyday things can really help you ground and that's really what any journey is all about. It's about just finding peace and happiness within the life that you're living, and finding ways to do normal everyday things and incorporate them into your life and your regimen to keep you at a state of peace. Things that give you a peace of mind, things that get you out of your head, things that don't require you to just think all the time, but actually enjoy the moment. But yeah, hopefully these ideas helped. Let me see, did I list all the ones that I used to do? Yes, watch some comedy, some good feel-good shows. There's a couple out right now. Two well-known comedians got some shows out on Netflix that I really like. Check them out. Look into it. Some black comedians. I don't know all the rules, so I ain't gonna just list no names or plug anything. But you'll figure it out on, I believe it's Hulu or Netflix. And there's two black well-known comedians who have these new family-type sitcoms that I really love. Very cool, very good. But like I said, everything is not valid that's coming up. Everything is not. You can call everything spirit, but that doesn't mean whatever that spirit is telling you is something that's going to be serving you or something that's going to be right for your life. So you have to know how to use, like I said, your best judgment and filter through your heart. Is this something that you feel in your heart you truly want or truly believe? And learn how to get out of your head by just asking valid questions, having compassionate conversations with the people who you're having these thoughts about, and stop trying to run away from the situation and just detach from the mind. You are not your thoughts, but you're allowed to have them so that you can heal, transform, transmute, whatever you want to call it, and release them, and just figure out what lesson you learned from them and move forward, not staying stuck or still. Peace out. I hope this helped in some way. Sometimes in a journey, especially a journey of self-discovery or, a spiritual journey, with the way media and the new trending platforms have given so many people platforms to share their perspectives. In going on these spiritual journeys, you can absorb a lot of things that a lot of good can come out of them, but you can absorb a lot of things that are not for you. And so in doing that, you have to know how to sift through it and find something that you can come back to that sustainability with. But sometimes some things are easier to let go than others. And your mind is automatically going to try to rationalize and understand things. So you can hear things about men and narcissism and just all kinds of stuff. And it may be hard to unlearn it because you've already associated certain things with certain feelings that you had already within your system to things that may sound right. But like a lot of times, like I say, some things may be coincidental. And it's easy to assume that it's because of this or it's because of that, when really it's just, it looks that way. So what I'm learning to do is how to unlearn a lot of the trash that I was picking up. And the reason why I was picking it up is because, as an activist, I was led to a lot of the manipulation that is happening to people but in turn, I was getting sucked into it and I was absorbing it too, because like I said, your subconscious is going to absorb whatever you expose yourself to. So I was just absorbing all this for research purposes, but I didn't set that intention for research purposes. So now every time I look at something, it's more on a research purpose. And I'm just like, do I want to incorporate this into my belief system? Do I want to incorporate this into my thought process? What does this do to my spirit? What does this do to my soul? What does this do to my heart? No, this is deflecting. Let me just actually get to the bottom of what I'm actually feeling and what can I do about it? And a lot of times fear is what's keeping us running in circles around what's right in front of us. Fear is what's keeping us deflecting and trying to find another excuse to rationalize how we're feeling when we're just feeling what we're feeling. And that's why I'm not against expressing yourself. It's just about how. And trying to stay grounded within your expression. But that's all. Just reflecting again. Like I said today, my reflections have been on fleek. But I was just thinking about one of the biggest mistakes I did when embarking on my spiritual journey is thinking
externally, like all of these spiritual practices that people do, yoga, crystals, Reiki, whatever, but intuitive readers, psychic readers, all this kind of stuff. But the biggest mistake I made was seeking validation from people who I perceived as spiritual because they had spiritual. But yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. Had to stop it and get my son together for a second. But yeah, so following these people and these practices because I deemed it superior compared to how I perceived myself and how I perceived my community, how I perceived my culture as inferior or less than. So I figured these things were better than me. These things were how I would evolve to become better. And that's why I say the first step, the first journey should be, I usually don't use shoulds, but honestly, it really should be about self-acceptance to cultivate self-love. And for self-acceptance, you have to cultivate self-compassion. And the way you get self-compassion is through understanding how people can evolve based on different types of trauma and different types of suffering. And so some people may feel like they're not as smart. That can be a type of suffering. Any kind of way that you may feel marginalized or lacking in a way that prevents as a roadblock to advancement. That can be a form of suffering, poverty, not having the financial means to get to the resources that you need. You right now in the spiritual community or in the self-improvement trending right now, nothing against that because I'm on the train too, but in this trending of it, to me, it is somewhat fueling like classism and elitism and shame because it's like, oh, you want me to tell you what's wrong? Stop doing that and stop doing this and pay $500 and invest in yourself. And a lot of these people can't afford a freaking $500 class and they're still left hating themselves and not understanding why they're going through self-doubt and defeat. That's why those are some of the main fundamentals, the basics of the human energy that you need to conquer first. You need to conquer all of the roadblocks. And honestly, in conquering the roots and the roadblocks is automatically the solution. There isn't like a thing you have to do to get to the solution, if that makes sense, like outside of healing within yourself. Because in healing of yourself, in accepting of yourself and cultivating self-love, that is the healing. That is the solution. And the more and more you open yourself up to you and accept you for you and bring yourself back whole instead of ostracizing this aspect of you and shadowing this aspect of you and pushing this side of you away, the more and more you start bringing it back in and calling in aspects of yourself and just accepting and embracing it and learning ways of how to regulate and reframe it or do what you have to do, the more and more you'll have joy in that understanding of you were a product of your environment and now you're outside of that, more aligned with that higher self, that conscious awareness. That conscious awareness is that observer that can be outside of yourself to kind of like, without judgment, without shame, without guilt, just looking at who you are, the way you behave, the things you do. Sometimes like poverty brings about manipulation tactics and ways of, being like a scavenger or being like, you're afraid of rejection, so you volunteer people to help you, or you avoid it altogether. And so these are things that come of being in a society that is all about having these material gains. And so to keep up in that rat race, people develop certain ways of being, and it's like you create this facade of success when really the real success is being like comfortable in your life in a way that's not dysfunctional, because comfort isn't a bad thing. It just depends on what idea you're looking at it. But you don't have to have a 30,000 square foot home to find happiness. If that's what you want, dream big. But what I'm saying is these are not have tos. You have to know how to find peace in simplicity and minimalism until you get to where you are. Like, you have to know how to have peace in nothing, and being naked and bare and knowing who you are. And it's not like, oh, I'm accepting the bare minimum. No, I mean, like, in self and who you are. You have to know you are worthy of something. You have value. You are not a mistake. You are here for a reason. You can make a difference in the world. And it doesn't mean on a grandiose scale. You can, if you have a child, you made a difference already. You can make a difference in the smallest of ways. Any job, there's many paths to activism and bringing meaning into your life. It doesn't have to be on this big scale, but if you want it to be, that's that too. It's just knowing. Ultimately, is knowing who you are and that you are worthy, you are valuable. You can build your self-esteem, build your self-love, self-compassion, self-acceptance, self-confidence. Build those things, focus on those things. And when you're building those and when you're working on those, notice what stops you. Notice the roadblocks. Notice what comes up into your mind when you're trying to cultivate these things. Notice, like, when you walk outside and, oh, I feel good today. And if another thought right after you say that comes up, it's like that negative self-talk that you have to reprogram. And like, oh, girl, you doing the most. Or look at you. Just stop being so conceited. Or stop being cocky. Or you need to humble yourself. All those thoughts is ultimately keeping your, dimming your light. A lot of times it's not an outside force. It's your own self-talk that has been evolved from the way this society maneuvers in the oppression and the history of this society and how it portrays on you. That's why the more and more you leave the matrix of this society, the more and more you can be in the world and not of the world. And you don't necessarily need nothing against any spiritual modalities or practices, but you don't necessarily need all of those things because it's more of the mind. If you learn how to conquer the mind, you're you ahead of the game. If you learn how to conquer the mind, detach from the mind, observe the mind, and build and do things that uplift your spirit, do things that cultivate this self awareness, and like they say, self is wealth. It really is, like, just bringing forth a positive energy, a positive light around who you are. When you hear your name, Jacob, Brittany, Jasmine, Brian, Carl, whatever, when you hear your name, attach something positive behind it. Start today. Just make a list of all the positive things about you that you love. Make a list of all the things you love. And if that list is not very long, then I want you to work on that. Work on adding things to that list. One thing a week. Give yourself a little grace, or one thing a day if you can. Just work on things, a list of things that make you happy, that can bring you joy, even if you have never tried it. Maybe I want to take a cooking class. Or, let me look up, if you can't afford a cooking class, don't let money be a roadblock to your healing. If you can't afford it, look on YouTube, look on TikTok. They have so many good cooking stuff on TikTok and YouTube, the YouTube University. Like, you know what I'm saying? This is not no endorsement either, because I ain't getting no check yet. But no, but seriously though, guys, I love you and I want to continue to help you build that confidence, because I'm in the same boat too. It takes a village. Peace, love, and light. The reason why I feel you have to have some level of spiritual discernment in these times is because I feel like with each spiritual teacher, you kind of have to get a understanding of who they may be following, what is their belief system, what is their foundation, who is their God, who is their, who do they worship, who do they, in a sense, work for. Because when you have a very definitive idea of who God is to you, or or who you worship, or who you follow in a spiritual community or religion or practice or whatever, you have to be mindful that that is in a sense their reality, because there's multiple realities basically in people's mind and people's life. And so you have to know that when you follow someone and when you take on their words as advice, that you are now taking on somewhat a part of their reality. So you have to be careful if their reality and mission does not align with you and what you want. That's why I say your foundation is, in a sense, knowing what you want. And I think I have a video called like the foundation of spirituality, or like when you're first starting a spiritual journey, what you should do. And so like for instance, if you're a person who's in a committed, loving relationship, or or at least you're trying to work through a committed relationship, you're a family, you have children, you may not want to follow a woman who seems like she feels like men are a big issue, or or she don't even like men, or vice versa, a man who doesn't think highly of women, or think women are a major issue, or they both have these deep-seated unhealed wounds that they're not taking in account to their biases, or basically their filter and their reality. Because you have to know, as a spiritual teacher, how to step outside of your own personal experiences, and I call it a trauma bias. So I don't even know if that's a real thing, but I feel like I kind of made it up. So you have different kind of biases that create filters in the way you see the world. And to me, a trauma bias is where you kind of can't detach from a group of people based on their race, gender, whatever, and how an experience you've had. So basically, say men have always treated you bad, or you come from a long line of women who have been mistreated or abused by men. You carry a deep-seated wound, and I feel like since we are one mind, black women do carry this deep-seated wound of, perceiving men in a very dark light, especially black men, because that's what we are typically, were associated with or have dealt with. And, the media and society on the outside kind of validates those internal wounds that we already carry, from generational wounds to personal experiences. So now every time you have an encounter in the future with a man, your trauma bias makes you automatically see him in the light of those past wounds that are now you're taking into. It's basically like an emotional baggage. And so that's why I say with spiritual discernment, you kind of have to know, like, is something manipulating you to feel a certain way? Because spirituality, the community of spiritual teachers has a way of making you constantly be in this state of feeling broken, feeling like your misery is all about who you're with, your relationship. And it's like, it's to me, it's a little deflecting, because it makes you not really look at yourself and what are you doing. And it's kind of like a blame game a lot. And what I really don't like about the spiritual movement right now is that I feel like everything is targeting the black woman and black male dynamic. And in general, it's almost creating this like war between the male mind, the female mind, the black male, the black female. And I'm like, people don't realize that, you don't see that this is like the great divide. And I'm not talking bluebells. You know what I'm saying? It's this idea that the foundation, that yin and yang, that feminine and masculine energy, yes, we have them all within us, but the power is stronger when you have that bond with someone that you love and you create that magic. And so I don't believe in sitting up here making men and women hate each other, because at the end of the day, if you're straight or heterosexual and you're a woman, you want a man. If you're a man, you want a woman. So I don't understand why we keep perpetuating this idea of everything is about the relationship, everything is about this, everything's about that. And that's why I say, with the rise of the divine feminine, I don't know if that is a wound that really is going to take some time to unpack, but we need to acknowledge that who we are calling on to help us and our ancestors, they may need to work through things within their ego, things within their experiences that may impact how we look at men, how we address our relationships, how we address our realities. And so trying not to be biased myself, because I do have a trauma bias within the spiritual community, because I had a pretty intensive spiritual awakening, seeing as though I was called to be a spiritual teacher. There's a lot of things that I feel like I didn't have to guide me, and I think that was part of the purpose as being a spiritual activist of spirituality, is that I needed to go through certain things to see the lack of integrity or the lack of objectivity within that community. And so it's not a judgmental thing, because not everybody is out of integrity. Some people are just like telling you, hey, you really are in a toxic relationship. And but me personally, I do feel like you can heal whatever they want to label as trauma bonds or toxic relationships and stuff. And some people are awakening together. Everybody is not coming into a relationship after they've healed, or after they're whole, or after they've understood things about themselves. Some people are already in their relationships, and they're trying to work through them. But when people are constantly saying things like, what's best for you, listen to this, listen to that, love doesn't hurt, love doesn't have arguments, love doesn't have disagreements, that's freaking unrealistic. And this is why I say, everybody's mission and purpose and who they work for may not be the same. Some people may want you to be a certain way aesthetically, and spirituality is not an aesthetic. You can have all the dreads and the hair wraps and ancestral clothing you want, but that doesn't make you a spiritual person. That doesn't do anything about your heart. And you can look like the most thuggiest criminal or hood person that you want to, stereotype all you want, but have the purest heart. So I don't go with aesthetics or what, spirit or whatever people may use as who they, look up to and whatnot. You don't know who they're looking up to and what that person's goal is and how they're working through that other person. So these are all things that you have to keep in consideration when you're, seeking someone's words for guidance. Because if they're not being objective and they're giving you general advice, or, it's for the masses. So you kind of have to know how to discern, like, okay, is this really for me? Because if it's making you internalize a lot of feelings, because, people say like, stress is this or stress is that, and it's just, or stress is like your heart's way of telling you, it's like it can only take so much. And I do believe that in a sense, but to tell a person that the reason why they're stressed is because of something specifically is kind of too vague sometimes. I feel like sometimes spirituality is a little bit too vague, and it's like, so basically you telling me if I'm stressed that everything in life I'm doing is wrong. No, this is the point that I'm trying to say. Like, people are forgetting the reality of life. You are in a world surrounded by trauma, darkness, and in that, carrying that torch of light is going to come with levels of stress, because you are, in a sense, fighting up against an environment that does have darkness. And there are stresses that are going to come with that. That's part of the human experience. And spirituality is not about perfection. It's not about not experiencing challenges, not experiencing chaos. It's about finding peace within the chaos. It's about finding peace within the stress and managing it and regulating it. It's not about making you feel like, oh, because I'm dealing with this, that I must be doing something wrong. I'm out of alignment. Yes, sometimes that is the case. But the thing with spirituality that I don't really like is that every statement seems so definitive. And it's like, it's like a white or black thinking. There's no gray area. But there should be a spectrum. Like, because so just have that discernment within any statement that you take. Every statement is not definitive. It doesn't mean like that's it. Like, there's no exception to that statement. There's no wiggle room within that statement. Just kind of take it as, okay, is this a wake-up call? Maybe I need to make some changes, but not like, oh, you're just a total screw-up, or you're just totally out of alignment and God is upset with you, Spirit is upset with you, you're doing the wrong things, because you're internalizing too many feelings of guilt, shame, self-judgment, and that's not what God, or Spirit wants you to do, in my reality. I don't feel like we're meant to walk around suffering through the healing process and living in misery. And healing shouldn't be basically living a life of misery. It's a journey, and it's so many steps because there's so many aspects to life. You have so many factors. You have parenting, you have relationships, you have career, you have self-care. Like, there's so many things holistically that come into play. And when you're changing and starting a whole new, breaking so many generational patterns. I don't really like curses, but so many generational patterns that it's going to take time, and you're going to mess up, and you're going to do things like you did before, or like your parents did before, or their parents did before, because you cannot be perfect. But the effort is what God, the universe, spirit, however you want to identify, is looking for. It's the idea that you're trying to do better, and the idea that you are keeping your heart open. And at the end of the day, you don't have to prove anything to anyone, because at the end of the day, God knows your heart. And that's a big moral of the story. And when you know God and you surrender to God, you know that this is not a person. This is something bigger than anything. It is all things. It is that connection to you. You are a product of it. And so, if no one else understands you or respects you or sees you for the light that you are, trust and believe your creator sees that, because it did not make a mistake when it created you. And these are just a little bit of the hopefully the comfort that I can give you in your spiritual journey. If you're feeling stressed through your spiritual journey, if you're feeling like you don't fit in, if you're feeling like you're not doing things right, or you feeling very broken or defeated because you don't want to do things this way. You don't aesthetically want to wear your hair in dreads, or you don't want to do meditation every day, and that's not the way you want to connect and open your heart and uplift your spirit. That's not calling to you. Or if you don't want to use singing bowls, or if you don't want, just remember, spiritual practices or aesthetics or basically images are not the only channels to your source. There are many ways to your source energy, to that God energy within you. And you don't have to do everything aesthetically pleasing to the spiritual community, whatever community that is. And don't let those pressures of being spiritual or being black and spiritual hold you down, because those are roadblocks that we carry a lot within the black community. And you can't allow that to stop you from growing and attuning to abundance. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that.